on a tree like this, sometimes people get very excited because they are scavengers and that there might be a predator around. But in this case, you would need to have evidence of other birds of prey. So you would need tawny eagles coupled with some vultures, and then you would know that there would be something dead here. This is just literally because they're close to the nest. The nest is, like I say, not too far behind us, and so often see them on these dead trees around sort of Leadwood, Drakensberg area. Constantly see them around this place. So pretty cool. Right, Battalier Eagles, you guys have been very obliging. I'm going to leave them where they are. I don't want to, like I say, disturb them any further than we have already. Hopefully they're not going to fly as I try and just sneak past. We're going to do it ever so quietly as much as we can. Now, I didn't hear what Kerr said. I just heard that we need to go across to Scotty D, who apparently bought something or other, and I'm pretty sure whatever it is, it will be a good story behind it and a lot of laughs, because anything that Scotty does generally encourages a chuckle, and his chuckle is quite infectious. So let's go across and see what it is.
Some toothpaste, but sadly they didn't have any. Fear not, Manu has kindly offered to lend me some of his, and it's not the end of the world. I've still got a little bit. We've just arrived down at the Mare River, and let's see what we can find down here. Hopefully some crocodiles, some hippos, maybe some birds, maybe a lion. Okay, lots of hippopotamuses, 2 of which are here, and a whole bunch further upstream. Yay, they're beginning to call, which is really nice. It's that stage of the evening. They've got a wonderful call. That's my version of what they will hopefully continue to do for us. And they're all getting ready for a night out feeding. There's lots of food for them at the moment, so I don't think they have to move too far. Let's have a look further upstream. There looks to be like there's 2 youngsters playing around a bit, Manu. Let's hope they continue. A little bit to the left. They've both gone under. They're behind the 2 that we can see in the foreground of your shot. Now it's those 2 youngsters over there that are playing around. They're tiny, and they're practicing fighting for future years where they may have some very serious fights. Hippo can be quite ferocious animals, not only for us as humans, but also amongst themselves, fighting over a stretch of river that occupies a lot of ladies. And often you see the males with very large lacerations all over their body from fights with other hippos. They've got very interesting dentistry. They've got 2 teeth that stick forward out the bottom of their jaw. Oh, that one just did a little salmon dive out the water. Hello, aggressive dung beetle. What an interesting name you have. And you would like to know if a hippo would ever bite an elephant. And maybe, but they're far, far smaller than elephants, so they'd be taking on quite a big opponent if they decided to bite one. I'm sure it may have happened at some point, probably during a drought, where both the elephants and the hippo were getting a bit possessive over a drying up puddle of water. But unless it's, trying times, like a drought, it's unlikely that hippos and elephants will have any issues with one another. What is more likely, though, and what does happen, aggressive dung beetle, is that it's quite common for hippo to actually attack antelope that run into water trying to escape from predators. And that's happened a number of times at the Arathusa waterhole, where we used to traverse when I was back at Djuma. We actually had a dam cam there. I can't remember if we actually got footage of it happening or if we just got reports from the Arethusa guides, but it is something that the hippos do from time to time, and I think it's possibly... Manu, let's go to the other ones. They're just jumping around the other two youngsters. So I think it could just be through confusion and maybe a bit of excitement that they will kill antelope as they run into the water. On other occasions they can actually try and help them. So maybe that was just a rogue hippo that had a bit of an issue. Let's see if these youngsters keep playing. What they're doing is they're kicking off the ground and then porpoising out of the water. And that's typically how hippos get to move around in the water. Wherever you see them kind of with their heads poking out of the water, you know they're standing. But where these guys are playing around, it's a bit too deep, so they've had to push up off the ground now, and they'll sink back down. Looks like there's a larger one there, possibly adjudicating this little bout. Well, happy to hear that a lot of you are loving this very soothing scene down at the river's edge with these hippos entertaining us, usually during the hotter hours of the middle hours of the day, not towards early morning and late evening. They can be quite docile in the water, so it's quite wonderful to see them playing around as they are. What would be really nice is if we saw them doing a mass exodus, because they really do have quite crazy bodies when you see them out the water. Hello Gremlins General, you would like to know if we still have the chance of seeing any river crossings of zebra, topi, wildebeest, Thompson's gazelle outside of the migration season. And yes, most certainly. I know Davy and Martin, one of our cameramen and one of our tech wizards, were coming out to do some work on, I think, some river cams, and they saw a really cool zebra crossing. And I think it's mainly the zebra that cross at this stage of the year, but others could. Manu, let's go like right up above the rapids now. There's a few more hippos that were really displaying quite well. They're a little bit further away, a little bit to the left. There we go. These guys have been opening their mouths and tossing water up into the air. Come on, do it again. Almost. If you just frame left a bit, there was another one to the left of him. If we can keep those two in frame, it's those two, the one you were on and that one over there, that were displaying the most. Oh, is it going to do the rollover for us? There was one hippo. Where was it? Was it at Djuma? Or was it before my time at Djuma? That used to kind of spin around, rolling in the water with its legs coming up out the water. And Kirsty, thanks. You think it was at Buffelshoek Dam? I certainly remember a hippo that was almost renowned for doing this funny roll where you'd see its stumpy little legs poking out the water as it tumbled around. It was its signature move. Sadly, all these guys that were displaying have now calmed down. And because there's so much food around, there's going to be no rush to leave the water. So in dry periods, when there's not as much food, you'll often find hippos out the water even now, in the early evening and later into the morning, where they've had to travel further for food. Seems like these initial ones are still the most playful out of all of the hippos in this pod. They've got tiny teeth. These are youngsters. I wouldn't be able to guess at how old they are, but big hippos have got far, far larger teeth. So just judging from that, you can tell that they're not fully grown. getting a bit more rain. You can also possibly hear some thunder rumbling. Huh. Hello Jerry, you'd like to know if I've got any stories of curious little hippos? And no, sadly I don't. I can think of nothing better. This is the wonderful noise I was hoping you'd be able to hear. Thank you, hippopotamus. No, I haven't spent too much time with tiny hippos. I've got no really, not many baby hippo stories at all. I guess it's probably because they're mainly in the water during the day and out at night when we're spending less time out. And as far as I can tell, or as far as I've noticed, they've been quite shy and not very inquisitive. Okay, good. Well, I think we're going to leave this wonderful scene and send you off to Tristan, who is going to impart some of his master tracking skills with you.
Well, Scotty D, I don't know if master tracking skills is quite the right word for what I get up to. I feel like I just hack my way through some of the tracks and try and learn the ones that apply to what I need to know and what I need to do. But the tracks that we have here are very, very cool tracks and very interesting. These are not tracks that we see very, very often, and they look and can be a little bit on the deceiving side. So if we look at this track here, over this side, it looks very much like a leopard track in a way. You've got the toes in the front, you've got this kind of lobe at the back, and it looks very similar. The thing about this track is that it is very small, so it would be a situation where you'd think maybe leopard cub, but there's no sign of a mother leopard anywhere around here. No leopard cub of that size is going to be walking out and about by itself, or lion cub for that matter. So it's definitely not that, and that only leaves a few different individuals. Now, in terms of being able to tell what this individual is, there's a few very key signs that tell us. If we have a look at this one at the back here, the first indicator of why this is not a leopard is very evident. If you see, here is the back of that front pad over there. There is the toes in front. But if you look here, there is a very noticeable secondary pad that comes off the back of this track. So it's a very round, big lobe off the back. Then the next pad here. And then if you count the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes, and again in the front this one will show you much better the toe count, but there is a toe, 1 over there, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we know that the cats and even the hyena species and jackal species only have 4 toes, so that only leaves us with 2 possible options for this individual, which is either a porcupine or a honey badger. Now Noelle showed you porcupine tracks this morning. She would have probably explained to you that this back pad area will be full of lots and lots of different segments, and so if I show you in the book, which I'm going to come and show you now when we get onto the car itself, I can show you a little bit more in detail what I'm talking about. But basically, if we have a look over here, this is the, since I'm going to move it so that the steering wheel's on the way. You've got honey badger and porcupine on the right side of the page. If you look at the porcupine, this is what I was talking about. It's got multi-segments, so lots of little segmented pads on its feet that you can see, and then you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes with a very, very small side toe. Also quite a big space between the toes. You see a lot of space there, and the top of the pad is very close to the toes itself. If we come up to the honey badger, which is what these tracks are, you can see that big kind of pad at the bottom, and then this pad that we see there, toes that are on the side, quite a big gap between the two. It's also very triangular in shape, and then these 3 toes very closely packed together, which is exactly what we see in this track, and then the claws way out in front. I mean, you can see how far the distance is between the claws and the pad itself, and that's because they've got very long arched claws to dig, and that's why they have such a long length. So these are honey badger tracks, which is very cool to see. It's some of the best honey badger tracks I've seen in quite some time. So it'd be nice if we had actually found the honey badger. I'm sure these are from last night, but still, like I say, very nice to see, and the light on them was perfect to be able to show you guys. And I know some of you keep a track book, so I know that you guys add tracks that we've seen on Drive to your books and kind of work out all the different tracks that we have, and so hopefully that will be a new one for some of you. Right, now the baby theme of the week continues because, well, we've had babies everywhere on this side of the world. There's been a few in the Mara, and it sounds like Scotty D has stumbled upon a tiny little baby. Maybe he should ask that one for a little bit of toothpaste.
Got a wonderful scene here. A young Thompson's gazelle nursing from its mother. And it'll be interesting to see how long the mother allows it to nurse for. As you can see, the youngster still has quite a bit of work to do in order to be able to work that milk out. And I'm hoping that once Mom has had enough of that, we'll get to see this youngster running around joyfully. I'm scanning around just making sure there's no jackals lurking around, because there is a family of jackals that live in this area. And at this time of the year, with lots of baby Tommies around, it's going to be probably the #1 food choice for jackals, because they can fairly easily catch and overpower these youngsters. Although we did have an incredible sighting a few days ago of one of these youngsters escaping the wrath of a jackal, mainly thanks to the fact that its mother came back and chased the jackal away. It was an awesome scene. Come on, take us for a little run around, Tommy. Show us how quick you are. What it could alternatively do is just lie down in a thick patch of grass. That is how they spend the majority of their day when their mother leaves them, tucked away, hidden, and only comes back as and when they need to feed. They blend in incredibly well in very open areas. Let's see if it's going to find its sleeping spot here, or if it's going to hang around with Mom for a bit longer. Got a bit of an itchy jaw, it appears, having no trouble scratching it though. And it's just fascinating how these very young animals have got such great control over their body. Hello, Philip. You would like to know if Thompson's gazelles will flood the market just like impalas will do with their babies, and I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I think naturally a lot of herbivores, especially the antelope, do give birth at similar times of the year, but it depends on the area, because even the impala up here, I don't think they have as strict a rutting season as the impala down south in in Djuma. So there'll definitely be an abundance of youngsters around, but possibly not as many in a short period as the impala. Here I've noticed impalas of varying sizes, and I guess it could be because the seasons are not as defined or as different as the ones in South Africa. It's kind of almost constantly there's a lot of food around here. Good question though. It'll be something we'll have to monitor over the coming weeks and months as we get to explore not only Djuma but also here. I think this area is going to provide us a lot of new insights into the same species of animals that we see down in Djuma, be it the lion, the hyena, the impala. Ah, that's what I was hoping for. Come on, a bit more of that. One thing I don't quite understand about how Mother Nature planned the growth of youngsters is why their parents need to lick their bottom to help them defecate. Very strange that they need to do that on top of all the other things that they need to do whilst looking after their youngster. Very good. Well, I think we're going to press on. Leave this little Tommy and its mom to their own devices, but Murphy's Law, as soon as I say that, the baby starts to play, teasing us to stay. Hello Jennifer, you'd like to know if gazelles are the fastest of the antelope. And yes, they're definitely a very fast species, mainly because a lot of the gazelles are not very big. Be it the springbok, the Thompson's gazelle, the Grant's gazelle, there's a wide number of them that are very quick, but I think the hartebeest create the family, or part of the family, that have the fastest moving antelope in them. And I think there's actually some running around just in front of us. Let's have a look at them there. At kind of 11 o'clock, Manu, there's some running around. Perfect timing. Please continue to run. Looks like they're taking some of their youngsters for a little bit of an evening jog. They too, just like the Tommies, have got a few youngsters. So I think these guys are the fastest antelopes in the Mara at the moment, but I'm sure the Tommies are not too far behind them. Now, what isn't looking promising for the rest of our evening is there is a large bank of rain making its way towards us from the north. Still some pretty colours out there towards the west where the sun is setting. But I fear we are going to have a soggy latter half of the drive. Oof, and now the wind's picking up. It's quite chilly. So why don't we send you off to a brighter, sunnier, warmer environment with Noel.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the Thompson's gazelle. Thompson's gazelle are always super interesting. We don't get gazelle down here in South Africa. We get other antelope species. The closest we have to a Tommy would be a springbok. Oh my goodness, there's a tortoise. It's not mating. I really wanted to show you guys mating tortoises today. I don't know why, but there is a giant tortoise. It is a leopard tortoise. Do you see where I'm looking here? 3 o'clock, just after the sand on the green little bit in front of that shrub directly. There we go. Leopard tortoise. So we had tortoise tracks this morning before we started walk. I put them on my Instagram account as the track of the day, so if anyone want to know the answer to that was that. And what I want you to notice with this tortoise is the way that it is walking. So, and what's actually feeding right now, so it's not walking how I want to show you. It sort of scuffs its feet a little bit and leaves these long marks that sort of connect into each other. So leopard tortoise, obviously because of the color of the shell. So something that's come up in my career time and time again is, do you have turtles here? Turtles, tortoises, terrapins, and calling all three of them turtle, turtle, turtle. So tortoises live on land and are vegetarians. Turtles live in the ocean and are selective feeders, and terrapins live in fresh water, like where we were watching the hippos and the ellies and the crocodile earlier. So terrapins are also called snapping turtles. I know, especially in the northeast of the states, they're called snapping turtles. There's painted snapping turtles in the lakes there. So this tortoise, being a vegetarian, is wandering around looking for bits of grass. That's what I say, he or she. I cannot feel, I'm not going to go pick it up, it's too dry, but you can't feel the bottom part of the carapace, see if there's an indent or not. If there's an indent, if it's a concave, then it will be a male. If it's flat or slightly convex, then it will be a female. Now, in other parts of South Africa, down in the south, on the coast, where you get Addo Elephant Park, you will get tortoises that are about 6 times the size of this tortoise, and they actually swim down there. So leopard tortoise are the only tortoises that are known to swim. I've never seen a swimming tortoise. I've never been down to Addo. It's on my list of things to do, my ever-growing list. Very cool. So this is also known as Mfutsu, where we are here. So Mfutsu also means slow. And sometimes when we get flat tires, we say we are a 3-legged Mfutsu. Check, that tortoise is hungry. So we haven't really had rain, but this tortoise does live near the Chitwa Dam. There is a little bit more moisture, so it would have come out of hibernation, a specific type of hibernation called aestivation, where it's very dry and cold as opposed to wet and cold like you would get hibernation in Europe and North America and parts of Asia. Actually, the other day I was out with Herbie, who you guys saw this morning, and Herbie pointed at a hole and he said, "Noelle, who's made the hole look like that?" And I looked at him and I was like, "Herbie, I actually can't think right now." And it was a tortoise. It was a tortoise that had made, the hole was already there from a termite mound, but it was a tortoise who had made the rounded edges to it, and that's where that tortoise would have been for the very dry winter months. Sammy Jane, you want to know, do tortoises mate at a certain time of year? It's a super good question. They will mate when the food and resources are optimal, so that's going to be more in the summer months, especially after the first heavy rains. They're not going to mate when they're busy aestivating. And it is particularly hilarious and enjoyable. I don't know why I say that, but it's just very funny. Tortoises mating is very funny, and the facial expressions on the males it's particularly epic. So it is something I will try and show you over the next few months. I'm sorry, I'm just picturing the last time I saw it. It had downpoured for probably a day and a half straight. We got something silly like 60 or 70 mils. This is farther north from where we are now. And we went on drive one day in the pouring rain and just weren't seeing anything. And then we came across these mating tortoises. And I think my guest and I stayed with those tortoises for a good 40 minutes and just laughed and laughed and laughed and took photos. It was absolutely hysterical. So yeah, at certain times of year, so summertime when it's nice and wet, and they are able to expend the energy they need to expend, and also put energy back in their body. So if they tried to mate when it was drier, or tried to come out of aestivation and mate, then they're expending energy that it's just not worth it for them. Very good question. All right, so we have a few little bookies in front of us here. Bookies are little antelopes. There's a little bit of bird life. I just want to pull forward a bit. There was a starling that was sandbathing a bit in front of us. And then there was a plover. There's the little plover. So do you see here at about our 11 o'clock, it's running there. It looks like a tiny little blacksmith plover chick. Before I say too much, I just want to check with my bios. Yes, it's a teeny tiny blacksmith plover chick that I would probably say was born in the last couple of days. That would be my guesstimation. Mom or dad has just landed down, is going tick, 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 basically saying to the little one, run away from the big scary vehicle, get away. And the little one's going, okay. But no, he doesn't really know where to run. He keeps turning around and looking at mom or dad, going like, okay, I'm running away. You see that? Just listen for a sec. Of course, now it stops. Okay. Mom or dad's now happy it's gone far enough away. But every time he stopped to do anything like eat or look back there, Mom's like, go, keep going. It's like being told if you have to go to your room when you're a bad child, or if your parents have to deal with something hectic. The other thing that parents will do, especially when there's a young chick or an egg with these lapwings, they used to be called plovers, so excuse me sometimes if I use the old name, is one of them will make these calls or fly up around, and then they'll pretend to have a broken wing display. So the like when jackals come, the jackals that you saw for instance with Scotty D up in the Mara, so one of the parents will pretend to hobble around and have this broken wing to distract the predator away. I've actually never seen a broken wing display. I've seen the display that we're seeing just now, and I've seen the parents dive bombing things like elephants to steer them away from where eggs are. But I have not personally seen the broken wing display. I just know that it happens. I've also been dive bombed myself by many a lapwing as I've been doing bushwalk and not been as paying close attention as I should, and come too close to the eggs themselves. Now just behind that beautiful little chick, we have some impala rams that have come down for a little drink. It's actually looking quite beautiful. Backlighting's nice. So no, these are not the same plover chicks that Tristan has seen. Tristan was looking at a 3-banded plover with tiny little chicks. There's the blacksmith lapwing that used to be called a plover. It's now a lapwing, much larger bird. I'm actually going to get my bird book out for you so as not to confuse anybody. Sorry, give me a second. So I have friends who can look through their bird book and know exactly what page everything is on. I still need to go to my index, and then I am not a very good speller, so sometimes it takes me a little while. Okay, so this is the blacksmith lapwing that we're looking at now, and this is a juvenile. Okay, we were seeing one that's even smaller than a juvenile. I think it was 3 afternoon shows ago when we were watching the crocodile hatchlings with Tristan. There was a juvenile like this when the dickops, the thick knees, were busy displaying at the hatchling, the crocodile hatchlings. There was one of these running around. So then you get the 3-banded plover. Here we go. Here's the 3-banded plover, much smaller. So the blacksmith lapwing is going to be a little bit taller than my book, and the 3-banded plover is going to stand about where this plover sits from here up. So that's the size difference. So that tiny little chick, that one that you're seeing with Tristan, is the one that was going up and under the mum or dad and just sitting under there. This little chick will do this with the adult. They're actually quite close to each other now. We'll do that with this adult, but not as much. The blacksmith lapwings tend to want have their babies like go away, move away, and they're going to keep moving until they find a safe spot, and then if we're lucky, that little one will tuck himself up under, there's the little one there, under the parent. Yeah, yesterday or today, tiny little baby. Look, there they go. All right, fantastic. So we have done beautiful elephants. We've had some good birds. We've done a little bit of antelope. Jandra and I have been driving around placing bets on whether or not we're going to see leopard, and hoping we find something. The guys are talking a little bit about wild dogs and tracks. They haven't seen them. It's not on a property we can traverse. It's over on Torchwood, but I am keeping my ear out because wild dogs, both Jandra and I really want to see wild dogs. We saw our leopard yesterday. Now a wild dog would be fantastic. So we're going to carry on. It's getting nice and cool. You can actually see nicely there's a cold front pulling in. So remember, it was super hot today. It was 34 degrees Celsius. Then we had that wind that picked up when we were on the dam wall. Now you see that cloud cover that's there? That's a cold front moving in. So tomorrow should be much cooler, possibly with those overcast skies that we were having for a few days with Tristan last week. And that's going to pull through and change the dynamic of everything for now. So let's reverse and get out of this beautiful little nook, is what I meant to say, and see what else we can find. That tortoise was great. I love a tortoise. You all will notice that over time I love everything, so I have a hard time picking a favorite. So today I've loved our elephants, I've loved I've loved our tortoise, I've loved our little baby plover. Everything is special and unique and interesting. I'm also a girl. Zoe, super good question. You're asking, do animals hibernate? So there's different types of hibernation. So Zoe, are you from a cold climate, a temperate climate where you get snow or maybe a lot of rain during the winter? Because if you are, then you will get a lot of species that hibernate because it's cold and wet. So you're from Illinois. Yes, it gets very cold there in the winter, and I do know that you get a bit of snow. So you will get species that hibernate properly through those long, cold winter months. Here, our winter is very short, very dry, but still in relation, it's cold for us, but if you were to come here in winter, you'd be like, oh, it's not so bad. So they're more worried about desiccation, about the dryness that can occur in that scenario. So that's what they're trying to do, is conserve their energy and conserve the moisture, and so they're aestivating type of hibernation. Check for tracks. Jandre, how excited would you be if the wild dogs just run out right now? I would be over the moon. I would probably squeal like a little girl. Yes, just like that, Jandre, although maybe not as high pitched, but that was good. There's... So Scotty D, your sun has already set up there in the Mara. Our sun is just about to set, but we are going to send you back to him to see what he is doing driving around. Maybe he finds one of the beautiful nocturnal creatures of the Masai Mara.
Everyone, just been telling Manu about how much I'm missing chameleons and how sad I am that there's not as many as I was expecting to find in the Mara, because Kenya's a place where you get plenty of chameleons and some really incredible ones. So I was showing Manu some of my pictures from when I was here for 2 years between 2012 and 2014, and I just thought I may as well show you as well. How cool is this thing? This is the Von Honels chameleon. They get a little bit bigger than the flapneck chameleons, and they've got this big diplodocus-like kind of helmet and a very fancy moustache. Very cool, but that, I mean, that's pretty standard with most chameleons, to be fair. That's another shot of it, more of its body. And obviously, like all chameleons, they can and do change color. This one's eye is not usually black. Another one, same story. And then this, my favorite. This is a Jackson's three-horned chameleon. It is like a triceratops. Very cool. Let me see if there's another angle. No, that's the Von Honels again. No, no more. That's it. But you do get some chameleons here. I think I've seen one look like a flat-neck chameleon, and Taylor's also seen one, but that was up on the top of the escarpment. We've yet to see any in the valley floor. I guess, I mean, it is mainly grassland, which isn't the ideal habitat for most chameleons. There's not too much woodland and trees for them to seek refuge in. But you do get some fairly big belts of forest in here. Big enough, you'd think, to house some chameleons. Anyway, we will keep scanning and searching, and maybe we will get lucky. Failing that, you will just have to wait until Safari Live sets up their next location, which will hopefully have a few more chameleons for us to show you. So we've been lucky with the rain for now. There's a very slight drizzle falling. But we've got a huge belt of rain ahead of us. What is this here? You got it there, Manu. There's just some eyes, I thought, in the grass. Let me switch off. A little bit lower. There we go. You can see something glistening there next to that rock. What could you be? Maybe it's just a little insect or a spider. Sometimes their eyes often glow very brightly and can be deceiving. I was hoping it was going to be another rodent. Manu and Taylor had the most awesome sighting of some rodents making love the other night. Took everyone by surprise. Taylor initially thought they were about to have a fight, and then they did just the opposite of that. Okay, well, I'm not too sure what that is. We might have to get a bit closer, but what I would like to do before we work out what that is, I'd like to try and show you this huge cloud of rain. Look at that. That's where we're heading. It was better without the eye, Manu. Yeah, you can see that wall of rain now. And that's exactly where we're going. Our camp's just off to the left of that. And while we show you a gloomy scene here, we can try and get something a little bit better before we say goodbye and send you to a much brighter, sunnier scene. But there is still a little bit of light out to the west. Let's send you off to what I'm guessing is going to be a bit more of an impressive scene with Tristan.
A very, very warm welcome to St. Joseph's School from Canada on our afternoon safari. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Senzo, and we're going to take you on a ride through the African bush and try and find you as many of the wonderful things that live out here as possible. Now remember that you can get hold of us and ask us any questions that you have, even if you have questions about any of the animals, the trees, the insects, any of those things, and you can ask the questions to your teacher and she'll send the questions through to us and we'll try and answer as many as possible. Now where I'm sitting at the moment, the sun is just starting to set here in Africa. We are at that time of the day where all the predators are going to start moving. So things like lions and leopards and hyenas, they're going to start coming out now and start exploring, because it's been very hot today. It was close to 92 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius, and so it's been warm for most of the day, which meant that most of the cats have been sleeping. And so what we're doing now is trying to see if we can find a leopard. This morning I was very, very privileged to be able to find a leopard in this area, and so I'm looking for a little boy leopard that hangs around here, and hopefully I'm going to be lucky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check up this road, and then I'm going to come down, and there's a water hole where this leopard likes to hang around and have a little drink, so we're going to go and check over there. So that's the plan for the afternoon. Hopefully we will be lucky, and that you will all have your leopard luck with you as we search for the most elusive cat of all of them out here in Africa. The leopards can be very difficult to find, but hopefully with a bit of luck we will be able to find him sitting somewhere in this area. Like I said, I did see him very late in the morning, and so I'm sure he's going to be around soon. Now I'm not the only one out here. My friend Noelle is also out and about, and she's got probably the fluffiest of the antelope that we get here in South Africa.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We have a very special sighting for you. Not only is it one of my favorite antelopes, we have a male, a mum, a youngster, and a beautiful sunset behind a marula tree. It really, really doesn't get any better than that. So there's also a lot of bird noises that are happening at the moment, so I just want to sit quietly for about 10-15 seconds and just see if we can pick up on all the gorgeous dusk chorus that is happening around us while staring at these beautifully fluffy waterbuck. And now we have a very eager youngster trying a little bit of dominance display. Obviously not going to work. It's not really his, he's not old enough yet. It's not time for him to have kids. All right. So within that little herd structure that we saw there, we had that big beautiful male that was in the background. So he has a huge set of horns. Anyone that's been watching lately, I don't know if you guys go home and you watch a little bit of the YouTube, we were discussing it a little bit. He's going to be a dominant male, and this is going to be his herd of females. There's another dominant male that's farther down the way, and they were staring at each other for a bit, and then this one that we were looking at laid down and basically was being submissive in his posture. So he's saying, I'm going to take up this space as the sun sets, and not allow, not infringe upon your territory. That other male is going to go towards his female and lay down, and then they're all going to sleep here for the evening. Oh, look at these beautiful colors pulling through. And there's that beautiful male waterbuck with his gorgeous horns, little white circle around the bum. Now, a lot of people say that circle on the bum is a follow me signal, so something that other waterbuck can follow through. But we've got up where Scott is in the Mara, you get the Tafasa waterbuck. They don't have the circle, it's just a little bit of white. Also, it's just such a perfect little circle. For me, it's just one of nature's mysteries. It just happens to be what it is. I don't think we are able to actually say why that is that. I think we as humans really love to put things in boxes, and this is not a example of a box we can do. I'm really loving, if we could pan out just a bit, Gendre, that little bit of sun that's peeking over that cold front coming through with the pink in the clouds. Oh, that's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so the females have started to move away. The other male is actually moving up, and that male has stood up. We might just get a little bit of action. If we do, we will definitely come back, but we are going to head over to Tristan and see what sort of surprise he has in store for us.
Look what we managed to find, guys. So we came along the corner and we spotted his footprints, and I knew that the footprints were very fresh because they were on top of the vehicles that had been driving here this afternoon, and out came our little boy Leopard that we were looking for. So he's just on his afternoon patrol now. I was saying that this is the right time for him to be out and moving, and so it's the best part of the day is that it's cooler now and leopards start to move and they start to try and walk around in search of prey animals. So we've got him at just the right time, and I think I know where he's going to go. He's probably going to head into an area where there's a nice waterhole that he likes to spend time at, and maybe he's going to have a big drink. You see he's got a big yawn there. That's because he's just woken up right now, so he's going to get going. Remember, if you have lots of questions about a leopard, send them through and we'll try and get them as much as possible. Zarina, you're asking what my favorite animal is. Well, we're looking at it. This is my absolute favorite animal. I love leopards and I like to spend as much time as I can with them all the time. But Zarina, before I carry on, can you hear above me there's a sound that's being made? So the sound that's being made is because of a squirrel that is sitting right there, just on the low branch sensor, right there. You see the squirrel? Now the squirrel's upset to see the leopard, so it's shouting at everybody to tell everyone, I've seen a predator. Everybody be careful. Amazing, eh? That's very cool. Now the leopard is going to probably move around, sniff around, so I'm going to catch up with him, but in case he goes the wrong way, because he might turn the wrong direction. If he turns to my left, then he goes away from our area. If he turns to our right, then he's going the right way. So we're going to try and keep up with him, but he seems to be going the right way, which is fantastic news for us. But he's on his, like I say, his afternoon movement. He's not a dominant male yet. He's not a dominant boy. He's still very young. He's about 21, 22 months old now, and so he's not able yet to mark his territory and scent mark. So what he does is he moves around trying to look for food until such time as he reaches about 3 years old, 3.5, which is when he's going to start establishing himself as a territorial male, and he's going to try and find a territory of his own that he can then dominate and scent mark and try and find females and mommy leopards to keep in this area. Now, I believe the school, you guys say thank you for showing a leopard. Well, it's my absolute pleasure. I love seeing leopards, and I hope that you're going to really enjoy these leopards too, and that we're going to have a wonderful rest of our safari with this male as he walks around. Now, I'm hoping, like I said, that he's going to go north and he's going to cut up towards this dam, because it's going to be beautiful if he goes that way, because there's a nice big water hole and he can have a really nice drink, and with the sunset, it's going to be really good. Now, while our leopard starts to go to that water hole, we're going to quickly go across to Noel, whose waterbuck are starting to fight.
Fantastic. So they circled around each other, they judged each other's up, they looked like they were going to move away, and now they've started a little bit of sparring. Now they don't always want to go, oh, like that one's moving away now, they don't always want to go and headbutt and do anything that could injure themselves. So a lot of the behavior you're seeing is, I'm bigger than you, no, I'm bigger than you, a little bit of tussling and then giving up a bit, but it's a war, not a battle. So they're going to constantly be up and down. And then another variable that's happened is there's a little tiny baby that's popped up to their left near one of the females. So the male that's in charge of that little tiny baby, he doesn't necessarily want that little one to get injured at all. Look how cute and fluffy that tiny little one is. So he's going to possibly change his strategy or his tactic. Now, if we head back towards those two males, we might see what their posturing is going to happen now. Now, Leah, you want to know how old are these two males? They're going to be older than 9 years old. So a waterbuck's probably going to live up to about 12 years, maybe a little bit longer. So I'm going to put these guys definitely around 9, maybe a bit older. They're nice, established, older, what we would call a bull. Great question, Leah. On this being submissive. Just that little bit of fighting was too much for him. All right, we've got Scott up north of us in Kenya, and he has some wonderful hyenas that he wants to show you. Hopefully we might get lucky and hear their wonderful whooping cries in the Mara night.
We sure do have hyena, and what's quite interesting is that there was just 2 youngsters, one of which is on the left. I'm not sure where the other ones disappeared to. They were lying next to one another, and then the bigger one in the middle came running in onto the scene. The youngsters got up and ran off. You can see this one's holding its tail up high, which is quite often the case when hyena are a bit excited. But I'm guessing they know one another, because all is calm and peaceful now. Now, let's take a little bit further off to the left. It looked like that one hyena was looking at something. Let's see what's over there. There we go. Some elephant. And some lightning. How cool is that? What's also cool is we know that the elephants have just crossed the Mara River. You can see their legs are very dark and wet. And welcome to all the school kids who are joining us. Kyle, you were hoping to see elephant. Well, I bet you didn't think you'd be seeing elephants with the lightning in the background like you're seeing now. Quite a spooky scene. And we're up in Kenya in the Masai Mara. It's already dark here, not like Djuma, so we're in a different time zone. And we're using a very special infrared camera. So we're not shining any lights. It's just about pitch dark around us, and it's been a rainy, stormy afternoon here, and as you can see, there's lots of lightning still around. Thankfully, that lightning is not going to be coming our way. That's going to continue away from us into Tanzania, the next country below us. Wonderful stuff. Now, I'm hoping we don't get caught in a serious big cloud of rain that's up ahead of us. We're hoping to try and find you some lions before we get caught in the rain. And thankfully, while we look for the lions, you can be lucky enough to go back to Tristan with Hosana.
Well, we've still got our leopard, but listen, there's a sound like a dog barking to my left. You'll hear it every now and then. And you see his tail's in the air. So his tail's in the air because he's telling these kudu, which are the ones that are barking like the dog. They're coming on our left-hand side. You'll see them. Now, there's a whole bunch of them, and they're shouting at this leopard. They're alarm calling. They're saying, we've seen you. We know you here. Don't come any closer. And they're the ones making that loud barking sound that we were hearing just now. He's obviously not too interested. Well, there we go. Look, he's coming towards them. He's growling at them. You hear them barking at him? Look at that. He's coming actually closer. I'm so surprised that he's going closer. The kudu will lose their nerve and they'll run. But there's too many kudu and they're too big, and he doesn't have the advantage or the ability now to hunt them because he's a secretive animal. So he's what we call an ambush predator. An ambush means that he likes to hide and then wait for the animal to come, and then he can surprise them. Now, with this situation, these kudu have seen him. They know that he's there, and so he has no more ability to surprise them, and therefore it's very difficult for him to hunt them, and he's going to leave them alone. He's moving off, but the kudu are following to try and make sure. And you see there's lots and lots of kudu coming out, plenty of them that are moving through the thicket, and they're coming all over to come and see this leopard. So I think there's about 9 or 10 kudu here, and these are our largest antelopes, so they're much bigger than some of the other antelope that we get in here. Leah, you're asking what colors can leopards be? Well, this is actually a very good question. Some people might think it's a silly question because most leopards look like that, where they're a little bit kind of orangey with black spots all over them. But actually, here in South Africa, we get 3 different types of leopard. And so you get the normal leopard that looks like this, that, like I say, has got an orange coloration with black spots. Then you get what we call a melanistic leopard, which is completely black. It almost looks like a black panther. And so those leopards are incredibly rare. You very, 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 very seldom see them. In fact, I've never seen a black leopard myself. And then you get what we call a strawberry leopard. Now, strawberry leopard is known as leucism. Now, leucism and melanism are two forms of color pigment in a cell. So we have melanin, which makes our hair color go dark, and leucism, which is if our hair color has a white pigment in it. And so the white or strawberry leopard has a lot of leucistic capabilities, and it means it's got a lot of white pigments, and so the leopard appears very, very light with very light spots, and it almost looks like a light strawberry color, and that's where it gets its name from. So there's actually three different color forms of a leopard, but the most common and what we see almost 100% of the time, the other two we very, very seldom see, is this color leopard, and he's a beautiful color. He's got a nice dark coat, and males generally do have dark coats, but he is going towards a termite mound, so maybe we're going to get lucky and we're going to see him up on the mound itself. He's also looking in some of the trees, and he's been sniffing as we've been going, so I think he's maybe smelt another leopard in this area. I know that there was a female and a cub that came through here a few days ago, and I think he's smelling the female and the cub, and that's why he's looking in the trees in case there's a carcass that he can steal. Isabel, how many times do I do safari tours? Twice a day, Isabel. So early in the morning for us, because it's now nighttime in our area. So I do early in the morning. We get started at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we're out until about 8:30. And then in the afternoon, I go out again, and we start at about 3 o'clock, and we end at about 6:30. So we have those two periods, and the reason why we do safari at those times, Isabel, is because it is the best time for all of the animals. Alright, so there are some animals that move around during the day, but they'll move around when it's in the afternoons. They'll go and get water, and they'll start to find places to rest, and then as the sun sets, like I was saying to you just now, so the cats start to move, and this leopard comes out, and he's now going to go into the night and try and hunt using the cover of darkness. But we are going straight towards that dam that I was telling you about. It's going to take us a bit of time to get there. We obviously got to go through the bush, and we've got to follow this leopard, and we're going to go over some trees and some bushes, and then eventually we're going to pop out on the other side here. But you'll see his nose is down on the ground the whole time, and like I say, he's busy following a female and cub scent because they both walked through this area, and that's why he's picking up their scent. So while I try and follow him through this thicket until we get to the dam on the other side, let's go back to my friend Noelle, who's made her way to the really very, very big dam, and I'm sure she's got lots of interesting things lurking around the water.
Welcome back, and how exciting was Tristan's leopard? We love a leopard around here. Myself and Jean-Ray, who's on camera, have not been lucky with the leopards, but we've had amazing other creatures to show you. Now I've got a little surprise of my own that we're gonna come up, and they're gonna be very active and playful, hopefully. They are big, they live in the water, and they have feet. If you have any ideas what might be coming up very shortly, send through your questions. Drew, you want to know if there's penguins in Africa, and there are penguins in Africa. You can go down to Boulders Beach or Betty's Bay, which is near Cape Town in the southwestern part of South Africa, and see penguins down there. Super exciting. There's African penguins in Africa. So anyone idea what our surprise is? I can see them now. Jean-Dre's gonna zoom in. We have a gorgeous pod of hippos. So there's all the little youngsters around the bottom of that leadwood tree playing with each other. They were gaping earlier, so a gape is when they open their mouths and stick their bodies up. Heard a little bit of their sound just there. Do all the safari drives love animals, Tracy? I think that's the question that we were asked. Yeah, we do. So Sophie, we have to love people for one, but we also have to love animals, and we have to really love the ecosystem in which we are functioning in. And so for us, it's not just about loving the animals, but it's about being able to tell people like yourselves about what we do and show you what we do so that you also have a love of the African bushveld. That's a really great question. Little oxpeckers flying off from the top of that hippo. They've moved over to the left onto the little babies there. So hippos are super interesting. They spend most of their time in water, but as the sun goes down, they're going to start, especially the adults, the little ones usually stay behind. The adults are going to come out and they are going to eat grass. They're a huge, huge, huge animal, and all they eat is grass. That older one is not being very nice to that little one, shame. And then they'll spend most of the night out foraging. The little ones will stay close to the dam, and then as the sun comes up, they come back in. Oh, look at that beautiful gape, and a little bit of playfulness with the chewing of the bark there. So hippos lose the most moisture out of their skin than any other mammal. Isabel, you're wondering how many animals I've seen in total. Oh my goodness, Isabel, I did not study math very well at school, and it's one of my biggest regrets. I wish I had. So I'm not very good with the counting, but I would have to say thousands of animals. Now obviously many of those are going to be the same species, but I think in general if we had to do a species count of just mammals, I'm not going to count birds. My bird list is somewhere around 450, and then my mammal list is probably 60 or 70 at this point. Quite a few. I've been doing this for long enough, but there's still a few things I need to see. I want to go to the Congo and see an okapi, which is like a funny mixture of a giraffe and a zebra, and I would love to see forest elephants in the Congo, and I haven't seen gorillas or chimpanzees yet, so there's still a few big ones that I would love to see and add to my list. Thanks, Isabel. Great question. Abby, you're so welcome. We love hippos here at Safari Live, and especially when it's cool like this and they are doing their wonderful gaping displays and playing around for you. Hippos are some of the best. Lexi, you're wondering if the hippos are trying to find food. At right this moment, they're not trying to find food. These youngsters are just playing, but the adults will shortly be going out to find food. So they don't really eat in the summertime mostly, and this can change, but in the summertime mostly they don't really eat during the day. They just eat during the night. So they spend most of their time in the water during the day, sort of resting and relaxing. And now it's like when you wake up on a nice Saturday morning and you don't have to go to school and you can stretch in bed, and then you get out and you play around a little bit, and then maybe you have a late breakfast or a brunch. That's kind of what's happening here, is they're playing around, they're stretching, and then they're gonna head off and start their process of feeding. Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Jean-Andre. So we've got a green-backed heron here, busy trying to fish. So he's at the water's edge. So there's tiny little fish in this dam. There's also some big fish in this dam. And he's going to see, yesterday, Tristan, who you saw earlier with his leopard, Tristan was here and had probably the same green-backed heron, who was also fishing and managed to catch a fish. So Jean-Andre and his expert camera skills are keeping up with this now very quick green-backed heron, who's obviously seen something that we can't see. So what he'll do is he'll sort of spear whatever fish he sees with that beak and then flip it up so that it goes lengthwise down his throat. You can hear the hippos starting in the background. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Leah, you're wondering how much a hippo weighs. A big male hippo can weigh up to about a ton. The females are going to weigh around 600 to 800 kilograms, roughly, just depending on the size of the hippo itself. If we actually go back just quickly, Jean-Andre, you guys can see not just the heads, but the back of one of them sticking out. So because they're in the water, you can't necessarily see the size. That to me is looking like a decent sized male. So you can actually see how big they are. Oh, here we go. Stand by one. Wonderful gape. Abby, very good question. So hippos do not breathe underwater. They are mammals. If we head just a little bit to the left, you can see one of the females popping out there, or sub-adults and some of the little ones. They are mammals like us, so they can't breathe under the water. They hold their breath, and they can hold their breath for 10 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer. William, how do hippos clean their teeth? That's a really good question. So William, hippos are lucky enough that they don't have to go to the dentist and have to have their teeth cleaned. They just carry on life as normal, and because they eat a lot of grass, which they basically pull up with their lips, they don't need to do too much dentistry. You will see the older they get, the more yellowy their teeth get. But luckily, I would say, I don't know, I actually like brushing my teeth and flossing. It's for the people who don't like brushing their teeth and flossing, being a hippo would be good. William, I'm wondering if you've maybe read that book. It's a wonderful storybook about the little bird that sits in the hippo's mouth and the crocodile's mouth and cleans out a bit of their teeth. I remember seeing that when I was a kid. All right, so we are going to leave our hilarious hippos and head back towards Tristan, who has a fantastic leopard to keep showing you.
I do indeed, and this leopard is really very, very interesting because he's smelling all around this tree, and there's actually dung for a little leopard, a cub, just in front of his face there. There is a little bit of dung, and so he's smelling it to try and see who this is. In fact, that's not actually leopard dung. I thought it was, but it's not. It's something else. But you see, look how he's smelling. And if we keep quiet enough, we can actually hear him sniffing. Now look what he's doing. You see, he's showing his teeth. So what he does is he's got an organ in the roof of his mouth. Now, an organ is something like your brain or your lungs or something like that, and it's called the organ of Jacobson, and that's able to tell what that chemical is that he's smelling. So is it a male? Is it a female? If it is a female, does she have cubs? Does she not? So he's very, very clever way of working out who's around him. Yeah, yes, I have seen two leopards fighting. It's not very nice to watch because I love leopards and I don't like to see them fighting. But you'll find sometimes they do fight over territory. So I've seen males and females fight a lot. Oh, look at this. That's so interesting. This young male is too young to be in a territory, like I was saying just now. But he's scent marking, which is a sign that he's now trying to establish a territory. This is the first time I've ever seen this young male scent mark. Now, the difference between scent marking and urinating is when they go to the toilet and they make a wee, they'll just squat when they're young males and they just wee on the ground. But what he's done is he's lifted his tail and he's projected his urine onto the tree, and that means any leopard that walks past, it's at nose level, and they know that there's a male that is marking here and is trying to set up a territory. It is very interesting because it's the first time that we've seen this young boy do that, and it's going to be a difficult thing for him to do because he's now telling any other males that I am in this area, and the big dominant male here, the father of this leopard or the daddy leopard, he's going to chase him away if he finds out that this boy is scent marking, because he knows then that it's going to be a threat to his females and to his mom and to his cubs, so they have to be able to try and then protect the area, and that male will chase this young male away if he's marking territory. Now we're going to try and keep up with him because he is walking. He's still going towards the dam. We're not too far away from that waterhole where he will go and drink eventually, but the scent of this female is making him walk quite slowly. He's sniffing all over the place, so typical boy, he's getting distracted very quickly. We know boys can't do two things at once, and so he's getting distracted. Now of course that's just a joke. Boys can do two things at once. We're very capable of doing that. Look, I'm even driving and talking at the same time. Very clever, aren't I? But we're not too far away now. We should be coming slowly but surely towards the water. He's going to move through this area, and you can see why a leopard is very difficult to find. Look at how well he camouflages. If you see from where I'm sitting, it's very difficult to see him. His spots blend in very well, and so he is an animal that hides in plain sight. And so if we hadn't found him when we did, by using his footprints to go in the direction that he headed, I don't think we would have found this leopard tonight. So it's amazing to watch leopards as they walk through the grass. They really do camouflage and blend in very, very well. Right, let's keep up with him because I don't want to lose him while he goes towards the water. Of course, I know he is going to go to the water, but I don't want to lose him before he gets there in case he does change direction. You never know 100%. I'm 99% sure, but you never know 100% that he's going to go there. Right, now I've got to be careful of all the little stumps and trees that have been pushed over by all the elephants that we get here. So you'll see lots of trees that are down and broken, and those can be damaging to the car. So I have to watch a little bit while I'm going and make sure that I don't hurt the car in any way. But the road is not far now. I can actually see the road, luckily, which is good news, and so hopefully we'll be on the road fairly shortly. Bryn, we can maybe see zebra. I haven't seen any zebra this afternoon. Where Scotty is in the Masai Mara is a great place for zebra, and maybe he'll be able to find them. I'm not sure if we'll see some here. I haven't seen any yet, but maybe at the dam, you never know. Maybe the zebra are sitting at the dam and we'll be able to watch them from there. So look, he's still moving slowly but surely towards the water. Look at the sunset in the background. Now, Evangelina, leopards have a very, very big amount of food that they can eat. So they'll go after lots of different things, from insects, if you can believe it, all the way through frogs, snakes, tortoises, terrapins, even up to as big as baby giraffe and elephant. So they have a very, very, very wide amount of food to be able to go after. What you'll find though is most of the time they hunt what we call small to medium antelope. So like deers that you get in Canada, the same thing. So those kind of size animals is mostly what they go after. They also will hunt things called scrub hares. Now scrub hares are almost like a rabbit, and so that's also part of their food source that they go after. The bigger they get though, the bigger the animals that they're able to hunt. Right. Right, now I'm just trying to get through this little thicket. Serena, you're wondering how many teeth a leopard has. Oh, Serena, I really honestly have forgotten now how many, but we can maybe try and count them. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 incisors in the front, so 4 of these teeth here on top and bottom. So that's 8. Then they've got 4 canines, which are the big sharp ones that come down. So there's those, and then so that's already 12. And then we've got how many carnassials do they have? They have, I think it's 6 in total. I might be wrong, it might be 5, but I think it's 6. And so they have 6 on the bottom on both sides and on the top on both sides. So that's 12, 18 plus the other 12. So it's close to 30. I think 28 or 30. Somewhere there is about how many they've got. I might be wrong. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's somewhere around that area. You see his tail's up again? It's because the birds were shouting at him. So he's just giving his white tip of his tail like a white flag to say that I'm surrendering. I don't want you to shout at me. Stop making a lot of noise, and we can hopefully then stay nice and quiet. But the dam itself is very, very close now. We're right here, so we should be going to the dam shortly. But while we try and get there before he starts drinking, let's quickly jump back to Noel, who's got some animals that love to be in the dam just as much as this leopard's going to love having a drink from it.
Hello, we've got our baby hippos. They're out a little bit more, teeny tiny baby hippos, and they're busy playing and wrestling with each other. having a fantastic time as they wake up in this balmy, balmy evening. I hope you all enjoyed Tristan and his leopard, and hopefully Hosana will go and have a drink for us, and we'll be able to watch that a little bit later. Natasha, you asked a fabulous question. Do hippos open their eyes underwater? And yes, Natasha, they can open their eyes underwater. They can close their nostrils, close their ears, and close their eyes, all independently of each other. And when they're underwater, they can actually see underwater. And they can hear underwater, not through their ears, but through their lower jaw, through reverberations in their lower jaw. It's very neat. Great question, Natasha. This one's giving us the hairy eyeball. There, he's going to go look underwater now. Communicate with his fellow hippo underwater. So a group of hippos is known as a pod or a raft of hippos. So Lexi, the hippos stay underwater holding their breath, sometimes up to 10 minutes or a little bit longer, and then on a hot, hot day like we had today, they're going to stay in the water all day long until the sun goes down. So one of the main reasons, Lexi, is when they're out in the sun is very strong for them, and it burns their skin, and it also takes most of the moisture out of their skin as well, which is not healthy for them. So they spend their time during the daylight hours in the water so that they don't get sunburned and they don't dehydrate. And then now waking up and it's going to be dark very shortly, then they can travel around without getting sunburned and without dehydrating and conserving their energy a little bit. So they probably spend about 8 to 12 hours of the day in the water. We are going to head back to Tristan with his cheeky little leopard, hopefully having a drink and giving you all an amazing visual.
Well, we are going to catch up with him now. We're just going towards the waterhole. You'll see there is a vehicle in front of me that is just letting us come past. So thank you, Aubrey. And so they're out on a safari. These are people that have come to the reserve to be able to come and see these animals and to be able to get to know them. So I'm going to go around onto the other side of the dam. And the reason why is because I think this leopard is going to drink from this side and I want to be on the opposite side so I can see his face when he does drink. And that's the idea anyway. Whether or not it does work, I'm not quite sure. Kadri, no, leopards are not faster than cheetahs. Cheetahs is the fastest land animal in the world, so they are much faster than what a leopard is. A leopard runs at about 70 kilometers an hour, whereas something like a cheetah is going to be doing close to 120 if conditions are right. Probably more around 110 to 100, but still much faster than what you're seeing from a leopard. Now he should be just on the other side there, and hopefully he's going to come across onto our side. I've lost visual of him now. I can't actually see him, so I'm just waiting for him to come. He should come from there. Hunter, you're asking how do leopards clean their bodies? Well, Hunter, basically what they do is they have a very interesting tongue. Their tongue has got rough hooks on it. It almost feels like sandpaper. And so as he cleans and he licks himself with his saliva, it acts like a brush and it takes all of the dirt and the parasites and loose fur. It's like brushing your cat or your dog. It's the same thing, and they get them nice and clean, and that's how they keep themselves very clean. Cats don't like water, so they won't go swimming or try and wash in the water. They're going to clean themselves by licking and trying to get rid of everything using the rough tongue. Now our leopard should be coming from over there. He was straight across on that side, so theoretically he should be coming down towards where we are. There's some Egyptian geese that are around, so those Egyptian geese, as soon as the leopard comes, are going to go flying off. He might actually even be stalking those Egyptian geese. He might be watching them. In fact, I can actually see him. He's on the other side and he is watching the Egyptian geese, so he's just over on the left hand side above the green bushes, Sens. So just a little bit to the left. To the left, Sense. So you need to go in, otherwise we're not going to be able to see him because it's going to be very dark. So just on top of those, more to the left. Okay, straight over the top there. There he is. He's just on the other side there. Should be able to see him behind the bush. I can see him just standing there. Maybe it's difficult with the camera angle. Maybe I'm wrong actually that it might not be there, but I thought I saw him moving through that direction and watching the Egyptian geese itself, but maybe not. Maria, the reason why leopards have spots is because anything out here that has a plain color, it means that it's easy to spot it, it's easy to see it. And so a leopard has the spots, which makes it break up the outline and makes it more difficult for us to be able to see them. And because a leopard is a shy animal, it likes to hide in deep, dense, dark thickets. It means that the best way to blend in is by having spots. It also, because of the area that they like to spend time in, has both shade and light. That means that the light color and the light orange and then the dark spots means that they blend in even better, and it becomes much harder to be able to see them. And so that's why they have those spots. It is the perfect coloration. Now, I don't know where our leopard's gone. I thought he would have come straight down to the water itself to have a little drink. I left him right there coming this way towards us, and so I was hoping that he would come and drink, but it seems as though he's going to be a bit naughty and maybe he's moved off a little bit. The other vehicle is here and they're going to try and look as well and see if they can spot him as well. Now, Bridget, you're wondering how much a leopard weighs. Well, it depends on the area that you look at them. So here in this particular section, we're in a savanna where there's a lot of prey animals, and so the leopard can eat a lot of different food items and they get very, very big. And so the big male leopards here will weigh about 180 to 200 pounds if they're very large, whereas a female will weigh about 100 to 110 if she's lucky. In other areas of South Africa, so if we go into the Cape, which is down in the southwestern corner of South Africa where there's mountains, the mountain leopards are much, much smaller. They don't have the same food that they can get to. They hunt mostly birds and lizards and little things called hyraxes, and so they weigh much less. A big male leopard there will weigh the same as our female leopards and weigh around 100 pounds or 50 kilograms around that area, whereas a female leopard will weigh anywhere between 20 and 30 kilograms, whereas our female leopards, like I say, weigh about 50 kilograms or 100 pounds. So it's just a bit different depending on where you are in the area. But I have honestly no idea why he hasn't come down. I thought he would have walked straight towards the water. He was moving exactly in this direction, and so maybe it's just a situation that he's being kind of stopped and is watching the geese, or he's spotted something and he's laid down a little bit. But he's somewhere on that left-hand side, and I'm hoping that he will eventually come meandering and waddling down towards this particular section. What I might do is just go a little bit further forward. So I think he's in that section. Their guys are shining a light in that direction just to spot and just to see if they can see him. So somewhere over there is where he was walking. Now, I thought I saw him sitting there somewhere, but I can't anymore, so I don't know if he's maybe laid down or what he's done, but it seems as though he's not coming towards us this side. So I'm just going to try and reposition so we can get one last view of our leopard, because we don't want a situation where we don't get to see him one last time, because he is beautiful. So let's just try and go around this way and not fall into the water, because we don't want to get everybody wet and the camera's wet. But let's just see. Oh, it's very, very bouncy, so maybe it's going to take me a bit of time to get there. Kadri and Maria, you're wondering why lions are called the kings of the jungle? Well, it's very simple. It's because lions are the biggest of the predators. So they're very, very large, and they are able to basically dominate, which means that they are strong enough to chase all the other predators away and to hurt all the other predators. And so that's why they're called the king, and that's why they've gotten that name. Actually, out here, elephants are the biggest of them all. So now, Senzo, have you spotted him? Where is he? 12 o'clock. I don't see him. Maybe Senzo can see him. So, there he is. He's just sitting by the bush sniffing around and having a little smell. So I'm pretty sure he's going to eventually come down towards the water, but at least we got to see him. It's perfect to get one last look. Now, unfortunately, it is that time of the day where we unfortunately finish our safari and we start to head back to our homes. I hope that all of you have had an absolutely wonderful afternoon with us and enjoyed seeing this beautiful male leopard as it walks towards us in the dark light. Look at how pretty he is. So I really hope that you've loved the leopard and the hippos and all the other animals that we managed to show you this afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure, from Scott all the way in the Masai Mara to Noel and her hippos, to myself and the leopard and all the camera ops, Kirsty and FC. We've had a wonderful time, and we'll see you all on the Sunrise Safari tomorrow.